The Directors Guild of America, not the writers, and Hollywood studios have reached a tentative 3-year agreement.
The Guild's national board will vote tomorrow on whether to finalize the deal. It's a 3-year deal. It includes increases in wages, increases in benefits, and streaming residuals, and it scales back the amount of hours an assistant director can work in one day. Good news for assistant directors. It also promises that directors cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. AI Spielberg. This comes as the Writers Guild, the other side of the coin here, continues its strike at studios all across the country. The current Directors Guild contract, by the way, had been set to expire and is set to expire now at the end of the month.
We want to bring in Dominic Patten. He's a senior editor at Deadline Hollywood, probably incredibly busy these days with so much news. Dominic, so tell us, how was the Directors Guild able to reach a tentative agreement so quickly, given that we're still holding our breaths for the WGA?
Well, look, I think there's always a lot of behind-the-scenes machinations to these kind of things, guys. But I think one of the things that was clear is the Directors Guilds and the studios, after the WGA called a strike on May 2nd, they had an impetus to try to find a fix here. The studios clearly did not want to see a second Hollywood union go out on the picket lines. And of course, they've got the actors unions negotiations starting in just a couple of days. And they have a strike authorization vote that we'll probably know the results of later today or early tomorrow. So you could have a triple threat, so to speak. So I think the studios, which have commonly first made a deal with the DGA in these contract negotiations, as I've been covering them over the past decade or so, I think they've moved forward on some pretty core stuff. And this is the reality. Nothing says I love you like cold hard cash. And there are some serious wage increases here, over 12% over 3 years. And of course, these residuals that like you guys talked about and many more. So we don't quite know all the details because that will be revealed after that board meeting that you guys mentioned earlier. But I think from what we've seen so far, the directors feel like they got a pretty sweet payout.
You know, Dominic, you're right. Nothing says I love you like cold, hard cash. So the question becomes, what kind of an embrace, what kind of a hug, what kind of an I love you are the writers going to get? Will this deal with directors set the parameters potentially for what the writers can get?
Well, that's kind of what happened in 2007, 2008 with the last writers' strike, which was basically hobbled when the directors made a deal with the studios. And after 100 days, the scribes went back to work. This year's a little different, but as always in labor negotiations, Hollywood or anywhere else, if you're dealing with similar unions in a similar industry, you have what's called pattern bargaining. And certainly you can't ignore the fact that now the studios have set a standard of essentially saying, well, we'll give you more money. Of course, as always, the devils are in the details, and we'll find out what that really means and how that money gets paid out. But this does put some pressure on the Writers Guild in terms of these topics, because there's a lot of topics that the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild don't have in common. Money, of course, as we all have in common, is one of them. So it's going to make them have to reassess how they're going to handle this. As of yet, the studios and their representatives have not sat down with the Writers Guild, though the writers say they are willing to sit down since the May 2nd strike was called. They're about to go into negotiations with the Actors Guild, who also have their contract expiring on June 30th, like the Directors Guild. So there's a little bit of a pipeline happening here that might turn into a little bit of a let's just say, a multi-guild pileup.
A multi-guild pileup means a lot of work and a lot of bylines for Dominic Patten. Dominic, thank you very much. Reporting is terrific. We appreciate having you on.
Thank you.